XLE, Indian Lake. It's 8 o'clock.
Good morning. This is Northern Light for Friday, June 9th. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe.
Scientists are monitoring the smoke plumes from the Canadian wildfires at Whiteface. They think the smoke blocked so much sunlight that it cooled the earth and disrupted weather patterns.
Because of that, we've seen very little of the predicted rain.
More on the impact of the smoke coming up.
Folks are celebrating Pride Month in Glens Falls, Saranac Lake, and Potsdam. We'll hear from the head of Lower Adirondack Pride about why these festivals are crucial in the North Country.
The future is really looking colorful for the LGBTQIA+ community in the North Country. You know, not just our organization, but other Pride organizations are bringing events, bringing such an amazing sense of community and sense of belonging to this area. And that's really what it's all about.
Also, Lucy Grindon brings us a herd up north from the Canton Dairy Festival, where Wonder Woman showed up to spark some joy. And we're going back to the 1920s in the Adirondacks to learn about the woman who was integral to building up Lake Placid. All of that's coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us.
Broadcast of Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio is supported by the Depot Theatre, Westport, a professional equity theatre in the Adirondacks celebrating its 45th season, depottheatre.org. And by CCOM Credit Union, serving the financial needs of people throughout northern New York and Vermont in person, online at ccom.org, and on your smartphone.
This is Northern Light. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe. Smoke from Canadian wildfires is starting to clear up in the region. The air quality was so poor this week that some school districts are canceling activities outdoors. NPR and longtime NCPR reporter Brian Mann traveled to a research station at Whiteface, where scientist Scott McKim has been watching this crisis unfold.
This is our sensor field, so it's a little clearing within the wider forest.
If this were a disaster movie, McKim would be out of central casting, a lanky scientist in a hoodie and blue jeans. As a meteorologist with the University at Albany, he's helped maintain these antennas and sensor arrays for nearly a decade. Intake tubes suck in air, tasting for pollutants, and most days, McKim says, they barely register.
Overall, the air is super clean here.
But as wildfires exploded across the border in Quebec, the first plumes of smoke swirled south on Saturday. Everything surged: black carbon, carbon monoxide, particulates.
So this is pretty unprecedented. We haven't seen these spikes in the data in our historical record.
As the numbers rose, McKim says the sky changed.
Eerie, I guess is what I would call it. Any kind of shadow on the ground, had an orange tinge to it.
McKim takes me inside the monitoring station, and he points to a real-time satellite map tracking the latest smoke plumes.
All of this muted gray color covering western New York.
The smoke is so dense, researchers think it's actually suppressing rainfall in this area, which is already drought-stricken. The smoke blocked so much sunlight, McKim says it cooled the earth, disrupting expected weather patterns.
Because of that, we've seen very little of the predicted rain.
It's wrenching to think this beautiful, dry forest could burn too, like the forests in Quebec. If this all feels hopeless, McKim points out this research project actually started because of another massive environmental threat.
In the 1970s, when this atmospheric monitoring station got ginned up, it was all because of acid rain and pollution.
McKim says science and public policy dramatically improved those problems. Now he says this mountain research outpost is on the front lines again. Brian Mann, NPR News in Wilmington, New York.
This story first aired yesterday on Morning Edition.
Warren County is giving out N95 masks for residents to use while the area is dealing with smoke particulates from the wildfires in Canada. According to a press release, the masks will be distributed at the DMV entrance in the Warren County Municipal Center from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. They'll be available on a first-come, first-served basis. The Warren County Office of Emergency Services is also working with communities and first responders to deliver masks to at-risk populations and public work crews today.
There was a lot of talk heading into this year's legislative session about housing, but adding protections for renters and building hundreds of thousands of new housing units around the state. It appears both those efforts won't make any headway this year. WNYC's John Campbell reports.
State Senate and Assembly leaders issued a joint statement claiming they were close to a deal on housing policy. It would have prevented New York City landlords from evicting tenants without good cause, and it would have extended a tax break for housing developers in an effort to build more housing. But those talks have broken down. The leaders laid blame with Governor Hochul, claiming she wasn't on board. But it wasn't clear if there was enough legislative support either. Now, lawmakers are set to end their annual session at the end of the week without taking up any major housing measures at all. John Campbell, North Country Public Radio.
A spokesperson for Governor Hochul rebuked the legislature's claims and hinted at executive action in the weeks to come. You can get more news all the time at our website, ncpr.org, or keep up with the station on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. It's 6 minutes past 8. Good morning, I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Just ahead, we'll share the legend of Clymena Wyckoff and her efforts in the 1920s to make Lake Placid a destination for the middle class. More on her story coming up in just a few minutes here on Northern Light.
Music by Wickmore Jazz Trio out of Plattsburgh. You can listen to their music anytime on our website. Check out our Underscore project at ncpr.org/underscore. Northern Light is supported by Barstow Subaru, Potsdam, committed to the safety and security of all-wheel drive. Details at barstowsubaru.com. And by Adirondack Foundation, helping people and families build a legacy of generosity for the Adirondacks. AdirondackFoundation.org.
June is Pride Month, a celebration of the LGBTQ plus community around the country. There were events around our region last weekend to kick off Pride Month, and more planned over the next few weeks, including the Potsdam Pride Festival this weekend. In Glens Falls last weekend, the Pride Festival drew hundreds of people. Emily Russell spoke with Cam Cardinale, president of the Lower Adirondack Pride, about inclusivity in the Glens Falls region and why he thinks Pride celebrations are crucial to the future of the North Country.
So you grew up in Glens Falls and came out as gay when you were younger. What was that like, and how did that experience shape the work that you do now?
So I came out in high school, and that was an experience. I underwent a lot of bullying, a lot of pushback, and it was really not a great time. So that's really where this organization comes from. And a different approach we're trying to take is to get into the schools and speak with the students and create events that are all ages and that anyone can enjoy, and just create a safe place within this community.
The nearby community of Lake Luzerne had planned a drag queen story hour this spring. It was ultimately canceled, and a new board member was actually elected who ran on a platform opposing the event. What do you think the takeaway from that whole thing is?
Yeah, that was so unfortunate. Lake Luzerne is further out in the country than the city of Glens Falls is, especially the youth community within Lake Luzerne who aren't feeling accepted, aren't supported by their community, aren't supported by their family and their friends. And we were really looking forward to that event. We were sad to see it ultimately canceled. We were honored to have no issues with our drag show this past Sunday in Glens Falls. We had 7 queens and about a 2-hour show. So it was awesome. And the audience was just so engaged and so respectful to the queens. And it really was like a full circle moment for this area of this is okay and this is accepted and this is what it's going to be.
How do you think events like that, just publicizing the community more broadly and encouraging more inclusivity, how do you think that plays into the future of this place?
So as a younger professional in this area who stayed in this area, it's super important to have this programming to both attract younger people here and retain them. And we're working with economic development professionals to do that, because without this programming, without these events, there's really nothing holding the LGBTQIA+ community together. So that's really our goal, is to retain and attract people here to Glens Falls and the surrounding communities, because we have a lot of beautiful places here. And without events and a community and support, these people aren't going to stay.
And talk a little bit about what kind of programs you've got coming up over this Pride Month.
So Lower Adirondack Pride aims to have 12-month programming, and this Saturday, June 10th, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., we'll have a Pride Mixer at the Larac Gallery in Glens Falls. And then on Friday, June 16th, we will have a Pride Paint event at the Wood Theater at 7 p.m., and tickets are on sale for that now as well. And then on Wednesday, June 21st at 5:30, Lower Adirondack Pride will host its annual meeting at the Crandall Public Library. That's where folks can come to get involved and learn about the work we're doing and join committees if they're interested.
How do you feel about the future of the Pride movement and the LGBTQIA+ community in Glens Falls and in the broader North Country?
The future is really looking colorful for the LGBTQIA+ community in the North Country. Not just our organization, but other Pride organizations are bringing events, bringing such an amazing sense of community and sense of belonging to this area. And that's really what it's all about. So we're really excited to see that future grow and have more events and have more support and be that connection for the community, for teens who are in a home where it's not going to be accepted. And unfortunately, that's just a matter of the fact. And again, attracting people here to our events, supplying our workforce with employees who are part of our community because they move here and we have these events and this support group and that kind of thing.
That was Kim Cardinale, president of Lower Adirondack Pride, speaking with Emily Russell.
More than 5,000 people per day are expected to attend an event for tractor enthusiasts in the St. Lawrence County town of Madrid this weekend. It's called the Gathering of the Orange, and it'll have tractor parades, live music, lots of food. Some of the tractors on show will be more than 100 years old, and one tractor is being shipped all the way from Germany, according to the Watertown Daily Times. The St. Lawrence Power and Equipment Museum in Madrid is hosting the gathering.
Summer activities and festivals are in full swing across the North Country. And if you do go to one, you might see a superhero walking around. The nonprofit group North Country Crusaders has a whole team of them. They raise money for community organizations like food pantries, and they volunteer at local events to drum up enthusiasm. Lucy Grindon brings us this Herd Up North from the Canton Dairy Festival, where a woman in a red cape, red boots, and a tiara showed up to spark some joy.
I'm North Country Wonder Woman from the North Country Crusaders.
How long have you been Wonder Woman?
Actually, 7 years today. I actually debuted at the Canton Dairy Princess festivities. That's why I definitely wanted to come. Basically, I'm interacting with the public. We like to go to public events when we can to show our support. Hello. Hi, how are you? It's nice to meet you. Being Wonder Woman is more than a physical appearance. It's more than a height or a weight. Wonder Woman is about showing compassion to others and to encourage others to be kind to one another. Another thing is sometimes people don't realize the impact of just smiling at someone. A lot of people are ignored, and if someone is having a hard time, that just reminds them they're not alone and that someone actually cares that they're here. Themyscira is where I was born.
Where is that? How far is it?
It's also known as Paradise Island. I can't give you the precise location.
Well, I'm going to meet Batman. Where is he?
Batman sometimes is away on mission right now.
True, right?
Yes.
True.
See you later, Wonder Woman. It's nice meeting you.
Awesome job.
Make sure to tell Batman say hi.
I will let Batman know.
Lucy Grindon produced that Heard Up North from the Dairy Festival in Canton.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. In just a minute, we'll take a look back at the history of Lake Placid and its early hoteliers. Then stick around after the show for Bird Note, how birding changes how you hear the world. That's coming up at 8:42. But first, Todd has a look at the weather for us.
Clouds and some scattered showers today, tonight, and maybe tomorrow as well. About a 60% chance of showers today. Isolated thunderstorms, highs in the 60s, light winds out of the east-northeast. Lows tonight, upper 40s, low 50s, with about a 30% chance of scattered showers. And then tomorrow, a 50-50 chance of scattered rain. Highs near 70, light winds out of the south on Saturday. Sunday, partly cloudy skies, a high upper 70s. And then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week, some scattered showers, highs in the 70s. In Canton right now, 53 degrees and cloudy. John Warren checks outdoor trail conditions as we head into the weekend.
Some much-needed rain has helped improve Adirondack air quality in time for the weekend. Most of the Adirondacks, and indeed the whole state, is now being reported as abnormally dry by the U.S. Drought Monitor. The fire danger remains moderate, and rivers and streams are well below normal levels for this time of year. The Hudson River gauge at North Creek is a little over 2.5 feet, levels we don't typically see until late summer or early fall. The Racket River is at about 3.5 feet at the gauge at Piercefield, and over on Lake Champlain, the gauge a little north of Whitehall is at about 96.5 feet. Water levels this low may make boat launching more difficult and will reveal obstacles in shallow areas that can be a hazard for boaters. The boat launch at Loon Lake in Warren County remains closed due to low water. Water temperatures are mostly in the 60s. Mirror Lake is in the lower 60s, which is also the water temperatures of most of Lake George and Lake Champlain. It has been cooler this week, with temperatures on high peak summits mostly in the 30s today. They are expected to rise to the lower 40s tomorrow and lower 50s on Sunday. Wind chill temperatures on high peak summits are forecast to be in the mid-30s today and tomorrow. In the Independence River Wild Forest, the Eatonville Trail is closed through mid-July. In the Saranac Lakes Wild Forest, part of the Bloomingdale Bog Trail, about 3/4 of a mile west of Route 86, is covered with large rocks for several hundred feet, making it very difficult to traverse. That area is expected to be repaired this summer. In the Boris Ponds Tract, Gulf Brook Road is now open to the Four Corners parking lot, and in the Whitney Wilderness, the Lake Lila Road has reopened. Those are the outdoor conditions in the Adirondacks this weekend. For North Country Public Radio, this is John Warren from the New York Almanac. Online at NewYorkAlmanac.com.
You're listening to Northern Light right here on North Country Public Radio. It's about 20 after 8. Good morning. I'm Monica Sandreski here with Todd Moe. It's time to jump in a time machine and go back about 100 years to the 1920s in Lake Placid. The Adirondacks were already a tourist destination for the wealthy from big cities around the Northeast, but it was all emerging as a playground for the middle class, and the hospitality and hotel business was growing. This North Country at Work story is about a woman who was integral to the buildup of Lake Placid. Amy Feiereisel has her story.
Madge Wyckoff is 70 years old, and he grew up in the hotels and motels of Lake Placid.
I was literally born into the business. All my relatives had hotels or motels.
The way they got there is practically family legend, and it goes like this. Madge's grandmother, Clymena Alford, lived with her parents and siblings in a small farmhouse on Main Street in Lake Placid. Her father was a well-known guide. When Clymena was just 17, a stagecoach filled with workers rolled up and stopped just outside the house.
And out hopped some guys looking for a place to stay for about 6 months. And when she found out how much they were willing to spend, she said, well, we happen to have some free space here. We have some people checking out. You leave your bags, and come back at 5 o'clock. Well, her parents did not rent out rooms. She simply moved all her stuff and her brother's stuff and her parents' stuff out of their rooms into the attic.
It was a Sunday, and her parents were out visiting friends. They came home to find they'd be living with their children in the attic for the next 6 months.
They were very, very angry. And then she pulled out this wad of cash. And she had gotten first month's rent, last month's rent, and a security deposit. She said, shall I give it back?
They didn't give it back, and Clymena didn't stop there either. Just a month later, her father and mother left for a long guiding trip in Canada, leaving the boarding house to her.
As soon as they left town, she was like a shot. She went over to the Stevens brothers' lumber mill. She had sketched out a hotel. And they said, you want us to build a hotel? Yes, and it has to be done in 6 weeks. Well, why isn't your father here? Well, he had to go guiding, and he left it in my hand. So when her parents came back, they had left a home and came back. There was a hotel called the Alford Inn.
Clymena went on to get her business degree in Albany and eventually opened the Mirror Lake Inn, a Lake Placid institution. And as soon as Madge could walk and talk, he was working for his grandmother.
She had me bringing a cart of rolls around to customers or bringing a tray of carrots and your celery.
He worked at the Mirror Lake Inn and at his parents' place on Wilmington Road, the Sun and Ski Lodge.
Every moment during the course of the day, you worked because we needed to get the money in. And, of course, growing up in this business, you had to learn to do everything. Make beds and do the laundry, carpentry, and I would learn how to do plumbing and electricity, how to fix TV sets.
Madge says hotel life was often a struggle, but that they always ate well, and he learned a lot of life lessons.
I learned the pleasure of work and doing work well.
He learned how to work in a team, the importance of community, and the value of creativity, especially from his grandmother.
She would rent out her own room during the summertime. I remember my Uncle Bob, his nickname became Poor Bob because he was always in the summer, he was thrown out of his bedroom and had to sleep in the laundry. She would donate the flowers for the Methodist Church on Sunday and then take them all up and use them to decorate the tables of the Mirror Lake Inn for the rest of the day.
And her creativity extended beyond the walls of her own hotel. Clymena was involved in building the Palace Movie Theater and helped to develop Lake Placid's summer skating program.
Skaters coming here as teenagers and young kids, one, they would fall in love with the community and come back. And also, skaters, they were weatherproof. They would be practicing skating at the Olympic Arena. It didn't matter if it was raining or what outside. They would be filling your rooms and their parents.
Madge says his father was similarly resourceful. He taught skiing at Whiteface and brought in lots of business from the mountain. He also ran a well-stocked bar that Madge says rivaled those in New York City. But what his father really taught him, he says, was what money was good for.
My father always saw money as grease. It was never something, if you get enough of it, you can make things happen. But it was never a goal. He never measured your success by money. You measured it by character. You measured it by your ability to work. Were you trustworthy? Would you show up on time no matter what happened,
Madge put himself through college cooking for the Mirror Lake Inn, but then pursued a life in the arts. Today, he lives in Keene Valley. He writes a column for the Lake Placid News and designs arts programming and interior decoration for hospitals. For North Country Public Radio's North Country at Work, I'm Amy Feiereisel.
This story first aired in the summer of 2020.
The Fiddlers 3, Whatever You Wish. That's Ellen Carlson, Kathy Summer, and Melissa Caron, all three on fiddle. And they'll be lifting the rafters at the Big Yellow Barn on Route 37 in Hammond on Sunday afternoon. They're going to kick off the Yellow Barn concert series at the Iva Smith Memorial Gallery of Fine Art, State Highway 37 in Hammond, this Sunday afternoon, 5 o'clock. Kathy Summer is a North Country woman, grew up in the region, and she, along with her, with Ellen and Melissa, will present their favorite works in the Big Yellow Barn in Hammond on Sunday afternoon.
And finally, it's here. Today is the day for the first live remote Beat Authority broadcast of the summer in Potsdam. Host David Summerstein is spinning great dance tunes at McDuff's Pubs this afternoon. From 3 to 5, there will be T-shirt giveaways, NCPR staff to meet. You can do a shout-out live on the radio. And, of course, it's the kickoff for Potsdam's first ever Pride Festival. You've got to bring the rainbows, bring the good vibes to a live broadcast of the Beat Authority this Friday afternoon, today from 3 to 5 at McDuff's in Potsdam. And, of course, check out all of the Pride events going on this weekend in Potsdam and many more throughout the region this month. You can find out more at ncpr.org/calendar.
There's live music tonight at the Paul Smith's Vic. Music Over the Marsh. It's the Susquehanna String Band. Rick Bunting, Dan Duggan, John Kirk. They'll be at the Paul Smith's Vic, 7 o'clock tonight. Part of the Music Over the Marsh series at Paul Smith's Vic.
That's it for the show for the day. Morning Edition continues in just a minute. A huge shout out to the wonderful team that makes Northern Light possible. Kara Chapman, Amy Fireeisel, Lucy Grindon, Emily Russell, our news director, David Summerstein, who edits each and every story that you hear on the show. Also our interns, Maya Mackey and Kelly Daphnis, and my co-host, Todd Moe.
And my co-host, Monica Sandreski. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening. Be well.